Welcome in everyone to HogvilleNET YouTube Live, a Saturday afternoon spasm. We're just jumping in here because we do have a little bit of intel. I had an interesting phone call. I sure would have liked to have made more sense of it. But with a priority Arkansas target out of the transfer portal, Jaron Pierre Jr., 6'5" guard out of Jacksonville State, guy that is, a highly coveted transfer guy that we've been talking about, in fair amount for a couple of weeks since I first started getting him on the phone. And, we broke the news that Arkansas had reached out to him via his agent. So that was the first known contact there. And then I've had conversation with him yesterday about his visit plans for the weekend, since apparently Arkansas, which he confirmed with me, Arkansas, Ole Miss, Auburn, and SMU are his final four schools. He confirmed that he's going to make an announcement on Monday. That conversation, we went through all that. What's up, Daryl Williams? What's up? We went through a lot of that stuff on the phone yesterday, but he gave me non-answers in terms of, are you going to visit Arkansas this weekend? I'm not sure yet. What about Auburn? Not sure yet. What about Ole Miss? Not sure yet. You're making an announcement on Monday. I know you've been to SMU, but not those three. I don't know yet. Told me he hadn't necessarily Zoomed with those schools, So that was part of that conversation. Remember, then part of the intel I shared yesterday, he's got a connection with Nellie Davis. Well, Nellie Davis is, to our knowledge at this point from the previous recruiting cycle, the only guy that successfully got in and out of campus without anybody knowing about it. It came out later once it went public. So I thought that was, maybe a little bit ironic, and maybe he wasn't in a place where he was wanting to share what his weekend plans were with visits. A lot of this stuff is kept hush hush. Arkansas's coaching staff is one, when it comes to portal players, they want that stuff hush hush. They don't want it out there either. So, that cuts both ways. Well, the last time we were on twice yesterday. I went through this intel around noon when I did the segment about Jaron Pierre Jr. So you knew you had more perspective on his situation than anybody else could provide at that time. And then I did one around 5 or after 5 o'clock when I was able to confirm that Malik Dia was in fact going to be coming in either Sunday, probably Monday would be the bulk of his visit, but maybe he arrived Sunday. Either way, at the end of the weekend or the start of the week, Malik Dia, the big man out of Florida State that's coming in for his visit to Arkansas. So that's expected to happen. That's planned to go down. That's been confirmed. So we did that segment, I don't know, again, early evening, happy hour time. And then I started getting information last night. Too late to reach out to him last night. I'm not going to do it after a certain time, but I started getting information that he was spotted in Fayetteville. Started getting info that maybe he was in Fayetteville. But I didn't get it from someone, the original part I got it from. I'm going to be so transparent so you hear this. This was not what I considered full-on good source, reliable source information. It was more about, not that I didn't believe it, but it wasn't enough to even tweet that out or go to the message board at hogville.net and say, hey, he's spotted. I need more. And I've had success communicating with Jaron. So I thought I'll just wait till the morning. If he's on his visit, there's kind of a protocol. I'm not going to call him if he may still be on campus or on the visit. But I might shoot him a text. So I did that. I sent him a text this morning. Didn't hear back from him. Are you on campus? Are you visiting? How's it going? But I did get him on the phone later in the day because I was told, I had someone else tell me that they thought he was gone already. Again, this is not someone I can, that I could even tweet that because I still haven't correlated everything yet. And I wanted to hear it either from him. I know I'm not going to get it from the Arkansas coaching staff necessarily. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. But if you're not sure if the visit's still ongoing, you may not bother with it. What's up, Kevin? Keep up the great work. So I got him on the phone. I based on the idea that maybe he's no longer there, I went ahead and called him, and he answered. Was a very, very frustrating call. Very frustrating. And I'm going to tell you why. Because we had a horrible connection. And I was able to parse out about 7, maybe 8 words. But the first part of it is what might tell us that he's been at Arkansas. I said, hey, man, it's Kevin. How's Fayetteville? How was Fayetteville? And the answer I got was, good. It's good. I heard that. Then I asked for him to elaborate. And everything he said at that point was muddled. It's almost like when someone's driving And sometimes they know they're about to hit a bad spot, and they tell you, hey, I'm about to hit a bad spot. We might get disconnected, or but before you get disconnected, you can hear them talking. You can't understand what's being said. That's what this was. It was very frustrating. And so I'm not sure what he heard, how well he heard me. I'm not sure if when I said how's Fayetteville, if he thought maybe I was asking something else, if his connection was bad at that time. At that point, what he said was clear. It's good. That part was clear. But the rest of it, when I was following up at that point, most of it was muddled. And not like someone faking it, I mean, he answered my call. He's, but so there was that part of it. So then I said, so are you still there? Are you still in Fayetteville? I was trying to keep the conversation going, hoping maybe we get a little better, something. And then I heard, I'm in Dallas. I got 3 words that were understandable. I'm in Dallas. And so then I said, okay, so if he was in Fayetteville and he answered correctly and he understood me, then he's already gone and on his way to Dallas. Maybe they're driving, or he's close or in the area, or maybe he's there, so I got that out of it. By the end of the phone call, the last thing I could understand that he said was, my guy. And then our phone dropped. I heard my guy. So maybe he was saying, hey man, we got a bad connection. I'll hit you back, my guy, or something. I don't know. I heard my guy. The other things he was saying, I could tell he was talking. I couldn't understand it. Very frustrating call. So I'm not going to mislead anybody. The fairest thing to say is, because we had such a bad connection and only a few words that I understood, I can't assume he understood my question at the beginning, even to know for a fact when he said it's good that he even was answering my question, which is, how is Fayetteville? Maybe it was. Maybe I got that part was good, so I'm giving you full transparency. I'm telling you what went down. I spoke to the prospect. There are other people saying he's been on campus. I can't confirm that. It's not the player that said that. It's, to me, Friday night, it's not his agent or his representation. It's not anybody from the staff. It's just kind of that stuff that's out there. But I was following up on it, and I got him on the phone, and that's what happened. It was, So there it is. That's my update today with Jaron Pierre Jr. If he understood the first part and heard me, no, I haven't called him back yet. Good question. No, I haven't followed up yet. And now I'm concerned. Well, what if he is still on his visit? That's also that. Since the phone call was so bad, I was hoping to get clarity on everything. I was going to interview for a post-visit interview, but I couldn't even get that far. To put him on the record and record it, because it wasn't great. So he did speak to me. He did take my call. Again, I'm not sure what to make of it, other than it's possible that he heard my first question and answered it, and that tells me he's been there, if that's true. But I have to leave out the possibility that he didn't, and that's only fair to say. So I'm still at a place where I can't 100 wholeheartedly confirm that he's there, has been there, or is still there, or was there, but I believe he probably was, because there's been enough people trying to suggest that they feel like they've got the information that he's been spotted there. But if I took the strength of all of it, I'm not at a place where I could say Jaron Pierre Jr. for sure was on campus, and had a visit. So I know that's a little bit frustrating. I'm frustrated by it. I am gonna try to reach out to him maybe a little bit later. I thought maybe if he's driving somewhere, just give it. I didn't want to run back into that situation. And I thought about just waiting to make the next attempt and then talk about it. But I thought, I'll jump on here because I did get a little bit more intel, not on anybody that's pressing right now, but it's a name I've talked about. He's overseas. He's back in Spain. Robert Morris Ford, 6'8". This dude was a big stat guy this year for a good Robert Morris team that made, from the mid-major level, that made it to the NCAA tournament and gave Alabama fits in the first round of the NCAA tournament. Alvaro Forgeras, Kentucky's been recruiting him hard. So I had a couple of things. One is I heard that, maybe Kentucky would try to get back on him if Brandon Garrison went in the portal. Kentucky picked up another international player today, by the way, that was announced. But I was trying to get in touch with Fulgeris to see if Arkansas had even been in touch with him. And I don't have a direct way to get to him. He's in Spain, but someone that knows him was on my behalf was efforting that, and they got back with me. They said they spoke with him, and the way it was framed was he really hadn't had much contact with Arkansas. Well, what does that mean? Was there some kind of contact? Did Arkansas, was there something there? I mean, it doesn't sound like it's going anywhere, but it wasn't a definitive, no, I haven't heard from Arkansas. It was more like really hadn't been much that, so it's something there as we try to piece together how is Arkansas going to finish out this roster. I've said forever, you're probably getting no more than 3 unless somebody else that you think is going to retain, maybe a DJ Wagner, would allow you to go up to 4. We know the 2 big men have already been processed with their paperwork. That's already been done. When we start referencing guys like Malik Ewan, who's coming in again on Monday, Nick Pringle, who more and more thought process that he's already been on campus. Maybe that's true. I don't know that for 100%. But I'm going to keep repeating it. I think Arkansas is in the process of adding both of those guys, despite other things that might be going on around it, with the caveat that we've seen 2 players, it's not unprecedented since Calipari's been Arkansas, go through the same procedural stuff, even come on campus, and then they ended up somewhere else because Arkansas upgraded in the first example, Jordan Bergs, because you went from him to a Duthero, so that was catch and release. And again, I'll repeat, Brandon Garrison was about the NIL. And you're not going to go crazy on your valuation range for what was projected as your backup guy when you just got your commitment from 1A, from your number 1 rotation guy. That was Jonas Adu. So with all the success of how this exact process has worked, there were 2 examples of why you keep your eyes open. It's not to scare you. It's just to remember process and results are 2 different things. I keep repeating it because some folks need it because I see the same complaints about why are we talking about this if it's not public? Well, because we're trying to Arkansas, it's not as easy as it was. The previous staff had its own challenges because they contacted everybody, and you're trying to sort through that. But it didn't take very long to figure out they were adding 6, 7, 8 guys, or however many, and the pattern became over 5 years. Some of those would be really solid, some of them were bust, swing and miss, and you were going to learn some names pretty early because they took a lot of early commitments, and didn't kick the can down the road on a lot of that. This staff is very measured. Calipari knows what he's doing. At the end of the day, you only really got truly two portal guys last year, and Adu and Nelly Davis. And this year, you're probably facing something similar, 3 guys. And you know who the 2 big men are. Until something would have to drastically crinkle and wrinkle and Pringle that for Pringle and Ewan not to go ahead and pan out. And if it does, that means that Arkansas's got something else that's whether it was not willing to jump higher than it agreed to on NIL or something else that's going on that improves the situation. So look at it that way. But I expect both of those guys to still be on a path to be part of it. That leaves 1. Jaron Pierre Jr. seems like that one right now. And I went through the small ball way you could do this with the pieces you have and what you're bringing in for it to kind of make sense. I don't know that Nate Ament, we can completely rule that out. I won't be surprised if we learn that John Calipari's out in Portland today and going to attend that Nike Hoop Summit where Darius Acuff Jr. and Nate Ament are both be competing. So there's more than one way this could shake out. I went from saying I slightly lean toward maybe DJ's going to be gone, and I had moved that up to 50-50. I've gone now close to 72 hours without hearing some smoke about DJ leaving and what might be going on behind the scenes. So I'm real close to just going ahead and saying I probably think DJ's coming back. Do I take it off of 50-50 right now? I mean, maybe I'll swing 51-49 the other way that he's coming back. How about that? Let's do that today. Let's nudge it from 50-50 back to 51-49, but on the other side of 50-50 of that. Not that I lean towards he's leaving. Maybe I lean towards he's staying. Either way, you could still add Nate Ament and a Jaron Pierre Jr., and that means you might just go with 12 guys, and only 11 of those are going to factor in next year, with 9 of those still being your top guys. And one of those 12 being a guy that's maybe usable more than the extra guys you had this year that you never used. Really, you didn't. So there's more than one way to do this if you like what you can bring in and you think you've got a path to making it work. Somebody asked something here. I think there's a way to make those come back up, but I haven't figured it out. No, they faded off, and maybe the next time they come back on, I'll get them back on. So that's the news on Jaron Pierre Jr. My son was coming in out of the room, and he was like, "What's going on here?" He goes, "That's kind of embarrassing. That didn't work out." I'm like, "Yeah, that was a weird one." But that is what it is. And so again, how was Fayetteville? It's good. It was good. Did he really understand what I was saying? I hope so. When are they committing? Where are they committing? Well, I'm talking about that. I mean, Jaron Pierre, it's down to Arkansas, Auburn, Ole Miss, and SMU. And then I remember part of what I heard was I'm in Dallas. Well, that's where SMU is. So, did he say that? I didn't hear the full context of everything because some of what he was saying was, so I'm not, that could mean, maybe he was on a flight and that stopped over in Dallas, and he was in I don't know, he's a New Orleans guy. I've heard that he's been, back. Somebody else I was talking to said that they heard he's been back in New Orleans for a few days working out or something. So maybe, I can't, because I have no context on the stuff I couldn't understand. I'm not sure exactly what was going on there. So in fairness to him, he did already visit SMU. That's correct. That doesn't mean that he couldn't go back there for any given reason. And like I just said, it could be that he's got a stop over there or something. You don't seem like you know what's going on, to be honest. Well, I don't know at the end of the day what he's going to decide. You're right. I'm still in the dark on that. The track record with Calipari is everybody that out of the portal that he's brought in that he wants to keep and is willing to keep, he's kept. So if he was on campus, that probably bodes well for Arkansas based on that track record. So I don't know that much. I just said I don't know. I'm trying to be transparent. I'm the only one that's talked to him that's covering this for the Arkansas Razorbacks multiple times. So I'm not saying that from a defensive standpoint, but I'm saying even having conversations, there's only so much they're going to share with you. There's only, some of it might be a little misdirection. Let's throw that in there. Maybe he did hear me say how's Fayetteville, and he said good, and that was misdirection. He's not even been there. Let's throw that out as a possibility then. You're right. Information is only as good as when it gets to the point where you've got it pretty much pinned down on what's going to happen. I don't feel as solid about that. We now know we've confirmed that Ewan's coming in. I've confirmed his paperwork's in. I don't have that confirmation on Pierre, even that much. That'd be a part of the puzzle. Yeah. Other ones similar to Amen? Nobody. He's the last five-star high school guy that brings to the table what he brings. There's nobody in the portal that's like him. There are guys that can shoot at a high clip, but they've proven it on the college level, and most of them aren't 6'9" or 6'10". There's a reason why there's even some talk that he may end up being the number one draft pick. Yeah, he probably is training for the draft. That's a good point. Because I've reported this. He's got a workout that he confirmed with me with the Washington Wizards. Actually, he didn't remember the date. He said his agent would have to share that with me, even though that had been reported by David Sisk that covers Kentucky. I was trying to get him on the record about the Final Four schools, about his decision date, about his workout. He did all of that, but then he couldn't even remember the date. Why is it so hazy in here? Yeah, I know. It might be my camera. It might be something about this light. I'm not really sure. It is, though. A little hazy in here, isn't it? Can't answer that. It's a good question, though. I see it, too. Yeah, Lamar, that's the word, was that Lamar, and I'm just going back to one of the ones I'd already seen. Lamar, remember, I reported that Lamar was to take someone else reported, I just repeated on one of these segments, that Lamar was to take an unofficial visit to SMU last Wednesday, the day before the dead period. And it was around the time, I think that's when Pierre was there. So they were probably there at the same time. That reporting's been out there. Yeah, so that is true. That doesn't mean he can't go back. It doesn't mean that he can't be in Dallas for some other reason. We kind of went through some of that. But yeah, that's also a possibility. Let's see if we can get some more of these. Is it better? Someone's saying it's better. All right, well, a little turn of it was hazy and fuzzy. I guess it is a little better. I can't tell. But thank you for joining me on HogvilleNET YouTube. That's basically it. I gave you a full Fulgeris update. It doesn't sound like there's any traction with Arkansas. Sometimes intel doesn't point in the direction of, what on a player that the staff is on. But by knowing they're not on somebody, then it kind of eliminates, at least for the moment, unless they circle back, where maybe some of their priorities are, so to me, the more the better on some of that stuff, even if it isn't zeroed in. But I think right now it just seems obvious to me the guys that are the focal points are Nick Pringle, Malik Ewan, and Jaron Pierre Jr. But I feel more confident because I know that the enrollment stuff, beyond just their financial aid agreements, it's not just that paperwork. It's more than that for it to continue to proceed on a track for their visits. Pringle may have already done his. Ewan's coming up here in a couple of days. And then the public commitment. Again, sometimes these things don't land only because Arkansas, in the two examples, had something better or had the preferred choice for the starting role and not going to go up in NIL insanely like another school was willing to. So that just illuminates reasons why things might not land like it looks like it's going toward now. But I think they're heading that way with both Pringle and Ewan. I don't see that they won't. And if there becomes a time where we do, we'll just jump back on here and talk about that. With Jaron Pierre Jr., it seems I don't have paperwork intel on that's been done or processed. That may be something I get quickly or don't get. I can't speak to that. I was just trying to share with you my attempt today to confirm what's going on, and we had a bad connection. All right, so I'm going to jump off of here now. Hope that wasn't a complete frustration for you. I just wanted you to know that I'm trying on that. And why would the Jackson State guy come here if Wagner comes back? I mean, I don't know. Why? Why would he? There's all kinds of reasons. If Arkansas has a vision for a role for him, and we talked about the small ball ways you could do it and get the minutes right, it may not be the best preference if you were also thinking, well, we need more front line. Two guys are great. You throw them in with Trevor Brazile, and you've got three front line guys like you had last year. So you're like, oh, surely Arkansas is getting another forward. But they might be going after, it looks like they're going after this guard. And okay. So it looks like they're going after this guard, and there are ways with Kareem Artal and maybe Carter Knox to supplement, because we know Brazile's role, if he stays, is going to be more of that primary guy at the 4 spot, whereas before he was the backup to Thero. But if he's the primary guy and he's going to help at the 5, his minutes will mostly be at the 4, some at the 5. And then how do you offset the minutes on the front line, since you maybe are going after another big guard instead of another frontline guy? How do you offset that? Well, a combination of Carter Knox and Kareem Artal maybe help you do that. So we went through some of those scenarios the other day. This guy always said a guy like Pierre or Lamar Wilkerson are perfect to slide into the role that you envisioned for Nelly Davis, except that both are higher volume 3-shot takers and have the potential to maybe bring a little bit more of that perimeter threat than even Nelly brought. So, but they have the volume of production that Nelly brought with him. When you're looking at it, how they see them coming out of the major level, their production, their efficiency, those kinds of things, and the impact. The difference between a Pierre or a Wilkerson and a Nelly, and I always said this, they didn't have the postseason pedigree. They weren't bringing all the kind of the caliber of impact of helping a team get to a Final Four and then back to an NCAA tournament like Nelly did. So there, there's all, I keep saying there's going to be some things you forfeit, some qualities you might forfeit that you had in another guy that you're slotting in to replace. But you may also add some things that you didn't get. Maybe a little bit more threat from three would be part of that. Who else is Ewan visiting? He's supposedly going to take another visit after Arkansas. We'll see if that happens. If he does, that means that Arkansas decided to move on. I think it's going to end up being a commitment to Arkansas is the most likely outcome, and that he doesn't take another visit. I don't think, now high school recruiting is different. I mentioned this the other day. The high school recruits, that's a whole different recruiting process. But what I've noticed with Calipari since he's been in Arkansas and guys in the portal, unless I've forgotten, I don't remember anybody that once they got on the campus, because I remember every time their paperwork was done on the back end, there was a notion that they were committed, and they just had to go through the process of coming to campus before it went public. I don't remember anybody at that point taking other visits that Arkansas kept and added to the roster. So, and the ones they didn't, it was Arkansas's choice. So that's it. I think that's where that's headed. So I'll be surprised if Ewan takes another visit. Remember, I kept throwing out the same names of teams that were after the same needs Arkansas had, except they had more roster exposure because they had less opportunity for retention than Arkansas. But on the front line, that was Arkansas's biggest need because Adu and Z were gone. And the other teams that were out there for a while and still are, Kansas, Michigan, and Auburn. Well, not Michigan as much. They've got three guys now. Perez Johnson, they'll have to see about Lindenborg, and they just got Ade Mara out of UCLA. So maybe they'll finally stop going out. But the teams like Kansas and Auburn that you see on Ewan's Final Five list, again, that might just be performative at this point, but they're on there, and they're on the list for other bigs like Eddie Lampkin Jr., some other ones. Even though Kansas got Flory Bedinga back, they're not done on their front line. They're not finished. Auburn certainly isn't. Keep an eye on Auburn with Ewan. You have to. He's on the list he gave, and you never know until it gets that visit over. I mean, he's coming on Monday. Is he visiting anywhere else this weekend? That's possible. Is Pierre, even if he's back in Dallas, has he got a layover to fly somewhere else and visit somewhere else until Monday gets here? I mean, we just don't know the answers to some of these things. I don't. I don't know everything, to be honest. The person that said you don't seem to know it, I don't. Let's be honest. I don't know everything. I don't know exactly where it's going to land. All right, I had this beautiful dream I was going to go 15 or 20 minutes, and I've rambled myself to nearly 28. Thanks for joining me on HogvilleNET YouTube Live. If we get another break and whatever, I'm going to jump back on here live. Almost 3 weeks and nothing. 5 exclamation points. No commits. 4 more. Yeah, Michael Kopesky, that's a great point. With exclamation points and some caps in there. You're right. It's maddening, isn't it? I would just say, just look at Calipari's track record. The guys he brings in aren't chopped liver. They may not be perfect, but they're guys that are coveted, highly coveted players, and that usually make more sense than not. Why did they pull back on Lamar Wilkerson? There's some stuff I'm going to have to wait on a little bit to go into. Lamar cares about money. Well, most of these players are trying to maximize that. That's part of it. Lamar's better than Pierre. That's coming from Johnny Young. And that's one of those things where, do I want to really split hairs? I mean, all things equal, the Arkansas kid, I'm in favor of that, but at the same time, there's other things that play into this stuff. Some of it's NIL, some of it's, one camp might look at opportunity different than the other camp, meaning the players, their family, their representation, how they view things. And so you may have you may see one as a more viable path for what you're trying to do for a variety of reasons. So just to say, I'd rather have this guy, I think he's better. You might not be wrong about some of the things that make you think that. But at the end of the day, there's more that goes into it. And you got to have guys that you feel like want to be here, but beyond the NIL price tag, beyond some other things where you may feel more comfortable about the role you're describing to that player. Their camp may have the same vision as you, where another one might be a little bit off. There may be some demands that are coming from the agent that are doing the representation that may not quite line up with what the player would necessarily do if he didn't have a representative looking out for him, and their heart may be in one place and the rep's just trying to do what's best. And there's all kinds of ways that this stuff shakes out. Kev, go play some golf today. You look like a golfer. I'm not a golfer. I'm not a golfer. Not at all. I like the idea of being outside for hours and nature and beauty and that whole thing. Because I like playing basketball. I was a playground hack, and I got into some good gyms and some preferred indoor places, and at night and stuff like that. But during the day, if I had my preference, I like playing outside. I like being outside and playing. I'd play for 2 or 3 hours at places where there were good pickup ball. But I actually sometimes preferred that if, unless the wind was, something that, throw your game off or whatever. But yeah, I like being outdoors. I'm just not a golfer. I always like mano a mano competitive sports, like, where there's contact and physicality and someone across from you. I've always been that way for whatever reason. I love, I like tennis. I probably like tennis more than I like golf as far as spectator and that kind of thing. Because it moves, you're seeing athleticism and all that. I'm not saying golfers aren't athletes or can't be. It's just never been my thing. But I respect the outdoor aspect of it. I respect that those guys are highly skilled and great. And, if you want to call them athletes, I'm not against that. Kev the Hooper, I was a playground hack. I loved it, though. I've ripped my knees up as a result. All right. I know I keep trying to sign off and I don't. Thanks for being here. Let's see if something happens today. Can we get a commitment announcement? Is there an order, preferred order? That's how Eric Patrick Musselman did it. He always wanted an order of things. A lot of times if he knew that the fans knew what the roster numbers were. So he didn't want to take a commitment from a portal player or a recruit, if it was even high school, if there was an announcement coming of someone they were pushing in the portal, he would make sure that happened first so that there would be an understood scholarship open. That, you see what I'm saying? Like, he wanted the chronology to look right. So fans are sitting there going, well, we took his commitment, then who's leaving? Because we have too many now. You didn't see much of that happen there. And in this situation, you won't really see that either. There is some method of the chronology, but it just takes longer because they're not moving as fast. They don't have to. With other coaches that don't have as much command of the thing, they're trying to get things done when they can. Now, they may still manipulate how we see it and the time that we see it, but if it's moving faster on their end to get stuff done, we're probably, even when we see it, going to see it a little sooner and a little more and faster than the way this one operates. So that's part of it. Again, at the end of the day, you end up with maybe max 3 guys out of the portal. It's not like a lot of these teams where they're getting 5, 6 guys, and like Arkansas used to do on the previous staff, where they were blowing up the roster every year, maybe keeping 1, 2, 3 guys, and then most of the rest was portal. That wasn't always the case, but it was a lot, and now it's just not like that, and that's a good thing. I think the retention part of it forces the drag on this. You're trying to keep guys that can help you further the program. And you don't need, then if you do, you don't need as many guys. And you're sorting through that. I mean, if they can still get Nate Ahmed, I think that'd be great. I haven't turned on that situation. And maybe they're out of it already, or maybe they're not. Even if John Calipari ends up showing up, I had a source yesterday, an NBA scout, saying he was hearing maybe Calipari comes. He couldn't confirm it, wasn't certain. But even if he does end up going out there, that could be just to be in support of Darius Acuff. And it could be that Ahmed's out of the picture. Or it could be to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. You're showing Acuff support, and you're there because you might still be in play for Ahmed. You're right. So if I'm being honest, there's a lot of stuff we talk about, report on, where we have to look at more than one angle on it and not tell you definitively, well, it must mean this. I mean, that's what a lot of people do. They connect dots that may not be connectable. I try to talk about more than one thing, not to confuse it anymore. It does kind of make it clear as mud, but just to show examples of let's not necessarily jump to this conclusion. Let's not necessarily jump to this conclusion either. Let's consider
Maybe it's this, or maybe it's that, maybe it's this. You know, maybe he goes out there to see Ament, and Ament commits, and to his surprise, I doubt that happens to him or somewhere else. I mean, we don't know exactly where all this is going. I really am signing off. 35 minutes in. Thanks for being here. Please hit subscribe, like, and share. Turn on those notifications. I'm Kevin McPherson. This was HogvilleNET YouTube Live. Happy Saturday. Happy rest of the weekend. Something breaks, we'll jump back on. Thanks.